it's his visit, and it's second leg of the visit in the West Coast that's generated a lot of interest. We are here in the Silicon Valley. In precisely, we're here at the Google headquarters in Mountain View, California, getting you all the details of the second leg of his visit.
It's an honor to be welcoming Prime Minister Modi to Silicon Valley this coming weekend. There is tremendous excitement for your visit amongst all Googlers and the entire Indian community. We are looking forward to your remarks at the SAP Center in San Jose and also when you come to Google. The bond between India and Silicon Valley is strong. India has long been an exporter of talent to tech companies. The products built by Indian graduates from IIT and other institutions have helped to revolutionize the world. But it is India that's now undergoing its own revolution. This will have great benefits for everyone in the country. We'll get people online for the first time, people in rural areas, Indic language speakers, girls who will learn new skills and will have successful careers. And businesses of all sizes will be able to find new customers. Prime Minister Modi's Digital India vision is central to this revolution. It focuses on connecting the 1.2 billion people in India.
The euphoria and the excitement is understandable because he's a prime minister who's also an avid user of technology and social media himself. This is his first visit to the Valley ever since he became the prime minister of this country. And for many of these companies here, India is one of the biggest user bases outside of the United States. And so, of course, the excitement is understandable. He's going to be meeting the last names in business. You talk about the tech titans, from Satya Nadella to a Sundar Pichai to an Eric Schmidt. They're all going to be there at the Digital India Initiative.
Everybody here is, of course, super excited that the Prime Minister Modi is going to be here. He's, been to the East Coast, but he's never visited Silicon Valley.
That's right.
And of course, the startup scene in India is booming, and there's a lot of cross-border activity there. So I think, all this is a nice backdrop for the Prime Minister's visit. I don't know whether specifically this will result in anything, but I think it's just a nice context for the Prime Minister's visit here.
As someone who has the advantage of being a global insider, that's what I call people like yourselves. You've been in India, you know the atmosphere there, you know what it takes to do business there, and now somebody who really wears that global hat, who invests in companies all over the world, specifically in the US and in India. How long will it be before India can have its own Silicon Valley? I mean, the kind of ecosystem that's required for a Silicon Valley-like culture. What are the enablers and challenges as far as India is concerned?
I think some of that is happening already. Frankly, I was just in India and I just came back, and I go every few months, and every few months when I go and I come back, I can see the changes that are happening in India, and I can see more and more of a startup culture emerging in India. Just to give you an example, right? I was at my alma mater, IIT Madras, 2.5 years ago, and I gave a talk about entrepreneurship to an audience of several hundred students, and I asked them, how many of you want to be entrepreneurs? And 2 hands went up in the audience out of several hundred students.
And that number has gone up.
Yeah, and now if when I do this, go back again now, and I ask people, almost every hand in the audience goes up. Right, so the enthusiasm around entrepreneurship, there's been a sea change in India over the past 2 years, and it's become a cool thing to be an entrepreneur.
He's so pro-business, has a great vision for India in terms of really driving key initiatives to bring India to the next century, to bring India to the next level and really uplift the masses from hundreds of millions of masses from the levels of poverty. So very exciting to have him visit here, and I know that there is a lot of excitement among the community from Indian subcontinent here with his visit. And certainly this is a place that is the hub of global innovation.
That's right.
So for me, it's particularly exciting for Prime Minister Modi as he drives the agenda for the next level in India, for him to experience innovation here firsthand, being driven, and certainly applying some of the aspects of innovation to India as well.
to talk about the two focal points of his visit, to talk about the two focal points of his entire discussion, that's Digital India and Startup and Stand-Up India. Many valid questions are being raised, and the voices in this valley matter because these are the guys who've been there, done that, and which is why the concerns that they're raising needs to be paid heed to. Many of them believe, and I'm going to begin with Digital India first, that for Digital India to have any meaningful impact on the lives of Indians or on the kind of governance that happens in India, they need to first connect the unconnected. They need to bring down the cost of operations. There needs to be far more spectrum available in India. People cannot be vying for that 1 megahertz of spectrum. Costs have to come down, which is why, which is how the whole infrastructure can be rolled out.
Let me start out by saying I am long-term bullish on India. India has a huge demographical advantage. The percentage of young people in our population is the highest of any big country out there, and we have the demographic dividend. But what we need to do is a couple of things. One, we need to make sure that our digital infrastructure is world-class.
That's right.
Today, when I look at data rates in India and the ability to get the cost of data and the cost of spectrum, that's too high. The government can make a big change by enabling Indians to have the best access to broadband, both wired as well as mobile data. And I think that is a multiplier to society. And then I think we need to streamline and make our laws consistent with entrepreneurship. Today, our laws still, as much change as Mr. Modi has made, still reflect more a license Raj than a startup Raj. We need to figure out how to make our laws resulting in a startup Raj.
Land bill, which is really the starting point for any investment. Is that a point of concern for corporates like yourselves? The huge political logjam, the standoff that we've seen on key issues?
I would say globally, the political processes that we encounter can at various points be a point of concern because democracy doesn't always move fast. And we live in a world where there's a higher premium on speed every day. So I think the democratic process everywhere will need to pick up, because the expectations of populations in India, in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, is that democracy is going to work for them, and it's not going to take forever to do it.
Do you believe there's finally a sense of realism that has sunk into the kind of expectations that are from the Modi government back home? It started off with a huge euphoria, and then, of course, reality always hits ground. Do you think that has happened in the last 1 year?
Well, it's probably part of that, because I think people come to realize the magnitude of the task. There's a lot to be done. India is an enormous country with lots of needs and lots of opportunity, and I think you have to recognize that some things are going to move a little faster than others.
Change is hard in large organizations. It's culture change and ways of doing business, ways of enacting reform. So I'm very sympathetic to leaders that want to have change. And clearly, it's been more challenging for Modi, and for actually, if you look at other world leaders, it's tough to get done what you promise and what people expect you to do.
But is there some amount of disappointment in terms of the pace of reforms that had slowed down? He came with a huge mandate. He had a 282. He was an absolute majority, the first Indian Prime Minister in liberalized India to come with a stunning majority like that. Has the slow pace of reforms, has the political logjam over some of the key legislations been disappointing to global leaders like yourselves?
I don't think I'd use that word. I think it's all about expectations, and certainly you want to see reforms happen quickly, and it makes business easier, it makes it better. But nonetheless, I think we at Cargill and other multinationals have realistic expectations that reform doesn't happen overnight. So we'll be patient. We're privately owned. We've been in business for 150 years.
Right.
So patience is a virtue.
Concerns about the speed. We'd like to see more action more quickly. But directionally, the investments in infrastructure, energy, the vision for the future, pulling the country together, goods and services tax reform, all extremely positive. We'd love to see quicker changes not only in India but in the United States and across the whole world. We understand the political process is difficult, but Prime Minister has made more changes in the beginning of his term than we've seen in a long time, and we're very optimistic about the future.
Prime Minister Modi is clearly somebody who listens, clearly somebody who is interested in seeing India, both its government and its economy, perform better and better. And as a consequence, he is all ears. And I think we very much appreciate that, and I think he is making progress.
They feel that the passion is here to build something that will eventually lead to a better product.
Expert advice, guidance, and sort of a long-term view is sort of India's a greenfield opportunity for that.
We're not looking only for money. It's a smart money which eventually would make a difference. And smart money would be access to market.
This is super successful.
Yes,
You made headlines with this, but this isn't the first startup that you started off with.
Oh, no.
You come back. You come to the space with some amount of failure. Has that changed your worldview as far as starting up and Uber is concerned?
Well, look, I think I love building things, and that love, you have that love whether it's going well or whether it's not going so well. You love what you build, and yeah, I've had a couple startups in the past that either never got off the ground or sort of flew really high and then crashed. But it makes you. It brings texture to
the person you are.
The person you are, but also how you approach it. In some ways, doing a company is kind of like you're in love, and you learn a little bit about love through these.
That's right.
Through these, not just the high points, but also the low points, and so it's made me good at a lot of things that it takes that you need to be good at when you're an entrepreneur. It also makes you appreciate when things are good.
And you're appreciating a lot of success right now, and it's very good as far as Uber is concerned. The context of this meeting really is that the Indian Prime Minister, he's only the second to come here in over a 3-decade period. He's visiting the West Coast, he's going to be in the Valley, he's going to be meeting success stories like yourselves. What does this really mean as far as India is concerned, where we are seeing the startup scene buzz as well? And also in terms of the Silicon Valley, we've seen very successful stories happen out of India here. What does this visit particularly mean to you?
Look, I think, India is one of the biggest countries in the world, and for us, just a huge opportunity to serve literally over 1 billion people.
That's right.
So we're honored to have Prime Minister Modi come to the U.S., and I'm certainly honored to be part of a group of Americans that can help welcome him. And so we're excited. I can't wait, and I think there's a lot of things we'd love to tell them about our experiences in India, our experiences growing as a startup there, and things that can help the startup community in India, whether it be Bangalore or Delhi or other cities that we're in.
As the Prime Minister gets ready to speak to some of the most buzzing names in the startup community and also speak to the venture capitalists, we decided to speak to the minds that matter, to the guys who've really made it, to the shining stars, and understand from them what were their challenges, what were the milestones in their journey, and what is it that India needs to do for the startup community. Context really is the Prime Minister's visit, his first only to the West Coast. What does this visit really mean for the community that we are addressing here?
See, the Prime Minister understands the value of innovation and research and the startup community in building his pet project of Digital India. Right. And I think this is the Prime Minister's way of coming and learning from the cradle of innovation and startup community to the world, to what are the lessons he can take back, and also on the reverse represent the startup community of India, the throbbing industry that we have now in India, to tell their story to the biggest investors in the world, which are based here in the Valley.
That's a fair point indeed. He's going to learn the lessons here and also perhaps take some of that back. Manish, I'm going to start with you. You're a startup here, a very successful valuation. Why is it that you could do this in Silicon Valley, and why can't people replicate the same success back home in India? So the obvious question is, what will it take for India to replicate the Silicon Valley-like ecosystem? What were the enablers for you here?
There's a very unique mindset here. The mindset is one that encourages risk-taking and failing. and learning from those failures, and the belief that that is where innovation comes from. There's also a mindset of collaboration.
Arnab, then I'm going to come across to you, and you know, the whole idea really, like Manisha spoke about, is that there is this culture of risk taking. People are willing to take those risks even at the cost of failing, because there are crucial lessons to be learnt there.
I think in addition to risk taking, there's a lot of other things that have come together here. There's this whole flywheel of there's a culture of risk taking. There's a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of second time, third time, fourth time entrepreneurs who want to give back. There's ample supply of money. There's the service providers like investment bankers, lawyers, and so on. And then there are corporations that are willing to pay a healthy premium to buy these companies. So there's Google's, Oracle's, Facebook's, Microsoft's that are willing to reward the labor of an entrepreneur. And I think that culture hasn't existed in India. Companies want to do it all. Reliance wants to own it all. Tata's want to own it all. And I think with Flipkart, Snapdeals, what you're going to find is there's going to be this second generation of companies, like PayPal spawned many companies here in the Valley.
That's right.
There's going to be this second generation entrepreneurs that are going to come out of these companies. There's going to be mentors that are available. And I think there's these companies that are going to be willing to pay to acquire these companies.
You know, it's a very interesting point that you bring, and I'm going to take a cue and come to you, Ahmed, because, startups is a different, they say it's a different DNA to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody can be one. You represent the big daddy here, the Oracle. Why is it that the big guns here in the Silicon Valley, or for that matter United States, are willing to collaborate, are willing to go out there and mentor, are willing to go out there and pay that premium to buy the companies?
I think one of the key points is around building the startups is the reason to build here is because people really want to build something. It's not a path to a fast buck, if you will.
That's right.
There is a perception that from a India standpoint, that people are there to do a startup to make a fast buck.
Right.
If you look at these entrepreneurs here, they built something because they had a passion for building. And once you have that passion for building, that leads the path to success.
Is this the biggest part of the value chain that India lacks presently?
Well, it's part of the value chain. With the funds that are available in the Valley, comes a couple of other things. The strategic value of the funds, the mentorship, the relationships, and also a lot of guidance.
Too much money that's chasing too few companies. Is that an analysis that you kind of agree with here?
So, that's a space that's sort of out of our field of
I
expertise.
understand.
So we're not a consumer-facing company. But just to follow on Arvind's point, the packaging of money with expert advice, guidance, and sort of a long-term view is sort of India's a greenfield opportunity for that. And that's kind of what drives us. And I think developing that backbone of the investment community is very, very important.
Ram, I'm going to ask you, you did a startup here, you're a serial entrepreneur of sorts. Is it just the money that matters, or is it like, Arvind's been pointing out for a while now, it's the expertise, the guidance, the hand-holding, the incubation that comes with all of it? And does India not just lack the money or the funds that are flowing in, but it also lacks this hand-holding at one level?
So I've been in this business for about 15 years, and I'm in the enterprise space, so SMEs are very critical to my success. So the SME growth has also fueled the market adoption of these technologies with India as an end-user market. Previously, you would have companies building companies here, going after markets in the US or outside of India. But now, India itself represents a large market opportunity.
Right.
Creating the market, making it easier for angels and startups to get funded and listed in India. So I think all the right steps are being taken to make sure both the startups prosper and the venture capitalists, the investors, they actually get an environment that they can invest safely and make their money work better and smarter for themselves.
All right, make your money work better and smarter is really the message that's coming in out from our panel here. As Prime Minister Modi gives Startup and Stand Up India a big push, it is the money that counts. What is the kind of failure that India will see before the boom cycle really begins is something we'll have to really wait and watch.